My name is Jay Ylvisaker, and I am an artist, carpenter, parent, human being trying to articulate something unique about myself. I have been a carpenter for many years. Prior to that, I went to school for art. I went to PNCA, which is Pacific Northwest College of Art, got my degree there. Shortly after that, began my family, and soon after that, really became a carpenter, hoping one day that I would come back to being an artist. This has been a very interesting experience for me. I've been at it for about 1.5 years, trying to figure out what it is I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to do. I've built a body of work kind of based off my love of wood, some of my skills that I've gained through my contracting and cabinetry work, but also my own aesthetic. The idea of altars has always interested me because it seems to me that altars not only have been objects that have had a lot of care put into them, into their creation, but they hold sacred space. When you look at the structures that have been built in the search for meaning, the search for God, it's a lot of emulating natural forms. In today's society, I see that things are much more manufactured, less personal. Spaces tend to not hold the same kind of sanctity that I see there was time for in the past. So I'm trying to build objects that hold a sense of sanctity, have a connection with nature, that revere an intention perhaps. So if you have an intention, whether it be family related, your own personal work, anything, you can place that in a sacred space. You remember by the beauty of this object or this space that this is something to remind you of that. Well, the forms in cathedrals really deal with transcendence, of weightlessness, of height, of freedom. And I think you see that in cathedrals and a lot of architecture. But to me, they don't fill me with the same kind of sense of joy or love or harmony that things that touch on nature more do. So when I see, for instance, a rotting tree that's being overtaken by miner's lettuce, which are little plants with flowers and moss, and it's just amazing to me. There is such beauty in that. And so that's part of the process of decay and growth. Nature seems to have the corner on such magnificent beauty in altars all over the place. Everywhere you look, trees, plants. So I'm just merely trying to capture that through a process of taking it in and then sharing it back out through my experience. I started out building tree houses when I was little, loved them, and we lived in a pretty modest area, semi-rural, and even then I was fascinated by houses, the moldings, the cornices, the corbels, the arched windows. You know, after World War I, the whole world was kind of explored through war, but all came back with all these different ideas about architecture, blending them into house forms, and it was very exciting to me to see that. Structures are amazing to me, and I think that they speak to culture, to place. You know, you have a certain kind of ecosystem, climate, environment, social structure, history, and then it creates these beautiful examples or expressions of that life, that place. The way I find materials is often just serendipitous. And sometimes I wrestle with things that are just beautiful, patinaed piece of burl or something that I found that is so beautifully degraded. And I know inside it's gorgeous. There's something that could be finished and utilized. And I struggle with whether or not to crack it open and discover what's in there, or just leave this object the way it is. You know, the years are recorded in trees and plants. Traumas, the environment, everything is grown like a crystal into a crystalline form. I really appreciate artwork that is functional, that is something that is used. I think that's where things have changed a lot. It's the particularness of something that is usable that helps enrich a life, I believe. So I would say that the objects should be treated as art, but also as functional items. They work best, I believe, individually, seen individually, and so displaying them might be challenging as just a series of objects, whereas they might, I envision them being placed in niches or with curtains to delineate the space so that they can be placed, so they can be more experiential. This last year and a half, I felt initially very lost in the process. I didn't know what I was doing. I was going completely on blind faith. I've always felt like an artist my whole life, and I began this when I was 51, and I had no idea what I really wanted to do other than I knew how to make structures. I wasn't going to build buildings. I don't have the resources to build structures, so I'm building small, and altars seem to be a really good way to be very intimate with the space, play with these ideas, this vocabulary, and it's like introducing a cat and a dog who together in a way. It's an interesting thing trying to put language to natural forms in a physical way.